Let's start this thing, fool.
Hello and welcome back.
Hello.
We have Em here from Maple and Ochre, and we wanted to discuss, because she's in the creative industry in photography. I'm also in the creative industry in design. So I wanted to discuss just things around insecurity, imposter syndrome, and self-confidence. But we wanted to switch things up and see what it's like in the finance industry as well, and see if you get anything around imposter syndrome, insecurities, and self-confidence in your type of work too.
100%. Let's jam into it.
I wanted to ask, in the creative industry, for me personally, design and you put your stuff out there and you essentially know that people or your clients or your customers or someone that's higher up will critique your work. So how do you feel around that? Like, do you get nervous or do you get imposter syndrome when this happens?
Yeah, so being a creative, I feel like we are judged all the time, especially on the work that we put out. And 100%, I feel like an imposter at times, at various stages, whether I'm shooting or whether I'm editing. Yeah, I feel a bit of an imposter sometimes.
Do you feel like that happens because you essentially self-taught yourself photography and you didn't go through a course? Like, does that have a play into it, or?
Yeah, look, I guess I haven't learned everything that I need to learn, and I learn as I go as well. But I feel a lot of it is because I just put so much pressure on myself. And I feel like I'm a bit of a perfectionist and everything has to be perfect. And if it's not, it's the end of the world. I'm failing. Like, I'm not good at my job. I suck at my job. These people don't like me. Like, it just sort of snowballs into this ball of self-doubt and just like this toxic ball of self-sabotage. And
yeah, I totally get that as well.
Yeah, it's not a nice feeling.
It's not. And what about you in the finance banking industry?
I think in the finance industry, there are people who probably do feel or have that imposter syndrome. Probably more about the quality of the work that is done. For me personally, I don't really feel that I have imposter syndrome. Maybe more so like maybe the perfectionist, dealing with clients and stuff like that, doing the work. It's like I need to be performing at a certain level. But then if I can't action that performance to a certain like time frame or quality, I doubt myself sometimes. I'm like, fuck, I'm doing a bad job, or I could do better by learning more knowledge or understanding a certain process more, or taking advantage of something else. So for me, yeah, that's where I sort of resonate with.
Yeah. So when do you know that you're feeling imposter syndrome? Like, what's the key feeling that you get and you're like, this is just me feeling imposter syndrome or insecurity?
For the moments when I do get this feeling, it's more, like I said, it's when I can't action or perform a certain way, whether it's a quality of speed or I get stuck in a moment where I'm like, oh shit, am I really giving the best of my ability to my client or a customer? That's when I start self-doubting myself at times. And to most times, it doesn't happen all the time. It's probably like a small off chance.
Yeah.
It's one of those random moments where you're doing work and you're like, oh, wait, this is taking me longer than usual. Is this a bad thing? Am I not knowledgeable enough? That's what I really feel.
And how do you usually try to overcome that or walk yourself through that feeling?
Well, at the end of the day, you've got a time frame that you got to get work done to the T. So it's like, okay, well, I got to stop dwelling about it. I got to get shit done.
Yeah.
So it's just trusting the process and just get it done.
Yeah.
And most times you don't realize that the customer or the client ends up being happy anyway. So that's when you realize, okay, I may have probably overthought about that situation. So that's how I kind of figure out, okay, I'm probably just tripping.
Yeah. Yeah.
For sure.
The same with you.
Yeah, it's a similar thing to me. Like if I shoot a wedding the whole day, I sort of get these imposter feelings, say just before the reception, and I just freak out. And if we haven't captured everything that we've discussed that needs to be captured because the day's just gone the way it has, I feel like I'm not doing my job properly. I feel like they're not going to be happy with the end result because we couldn't do this because of the weather, or so-and-so couldn't come into the photo, stuff like that. Or like Sam said, like if I'm taking a longer time to deliver their gallery, or if I'm struggling trying to edit different things, I kind of feel like, oh, I'm not competent enough, or like they're going to hate this. I feel like getting the validation from the client like puts me at ease. Like when I send my work out and they're happy, then I don't have that feeling. But as Sam said, you overthink it a little bit, and it's good that you can catch yourself out on that. Whereas me, I just overthink to the point of making myself physically sick at times.
No.
But it's not all of the time. But yeah, as a creative and stuff, you want people to enjoy the work that you give to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like during that time, when you're in that moment, say you're preparing for the reception, how do you, kind of psych yourself up and be like, this is okay? Like, do you just kind of power through, or what happens?
I power through, and I just, okay, so this is going to sound a bit weird, but
there's nothing that's weird.
Okay, so like before I do a wedding, there have been times when like I'm very, like I just overthink it a lot to the point of I don't want to shoot this, but you have to. And so I sometimes like play loud music in the car on the way there, and I just scream.
Yeah.
I just scream in the car, and then like I just give myself like a big pep talk, like,
nice.
You can do this. You know your shit. You're a good photographer. Like people love you. Like this is why they hired you. Like I have to amp myself up that way. Otherwise I'm going to let these negative, overthinking, intrusive thoughts just ruin the whole day for me.
Yeah, no, that's actually really good. Like I think like a lot of people actually do that. People talk about like positive affirmations that kind of stuff, and that's your way of giving yourself the positive affirmation.
The angry scream in the car.
That's awesome.
But music actually does really help. Like for me, I do that as well. If I either need to focus or I'm like, not feeling up to scratch, playing music is what helps me feel grounded.
What about for you? Like, what's your imposter syndrome? What's a situation when you call yourself out or you feel that you're about to?
I think my one, like for us designers, you have to show a lot of your portfolio, which is like mainly posting on social media, Instagram, those kind of things. And that is one when I would feel imposter syndrome because I have to like post it. And then like you were saying in, I think it was the previous episode with us, is you have to try and keep up and always post and show your work and stuff. And then you get to the point, it's like, are you just making stuff up just to like post?
Absolutely.
Or are you actually putting out quality work? That's one thing. But also imposter syndrome, like for me, the critiquing stage and handing work over isn't really the issue. It's when I'm sitting by myself, say creating a logo or branding, and I'm just trying to churn out logos and ideas and like I can't come up with something. That's when I'm like, okay, I don't even know what I'm doing. I have no ideas, and like it's due in 2 days and I've got nothing. And then they're just going to, think that I don't even know what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. So that's the moments when I'm like, I'm not good at my job. But then what I've come to realize though, for me, as I do it more, once you pass that phase of like, I'm shit, I don't know what I'm doing, you keep pushing through. That's when the creativity comes out. Like you've passed that and like the rainbows come out and you're like, oh, I've got so many ideas
a good feeling,
now.
Pushing through like the darkness.
Yeah. So that's what I've come to realize. And like now I'm getting better at just being okay that at this point in time, I've got nothing and no ideas. But in creativity, you can't push it. Like if you've got no ideas, you just have to step away, clear your mind, come back, and then you're like, oh, yeah, I've got something now. So That's how I kind of get
It's
through it.
interesting that you say that too, because in the finance side, my team always talks about like if you're stuck with a particular situation, just stop, go for a walk, and come back and refresh your mind, and you're ready to go. And they say that like the guys in my team, they're like, yeah, when I do that, I come back feeling refreshed, and it works every single time. And I'm like, oh shit, I got to do that. So, because I never used to do that. I used to just sit there and just try and like pick on it until I get it right. But then I find that if you're just sitting there and trying to pick on it, you're just in that endless cycle.
Yeah, and that's what happens to me. And like a couple of my other photographer friends, like we'll get stuck on editing a gallery, and for some reason nothing's working. Like everything looks the same or nothing's popping, and we just tell each other, just forget about it for now. You've done what you can do, and start with fresh eyes the next day, and just come back to it, because nothing's going to change if, you know, you've been staring at the screen for like 10 hours and you feel like crap. So yeah, that definitely helps just to step away from just to step away from it and then come back with fresh eyes and hopefully a fresh outlook, and that kind of helps.
Going back to the logo design example, sometimes all you see is what you've already put onto the canvas, and then you're just stuck. You're like, oh, I just need to tweak this, I need to tweak that. But once you step away, you forget about it, you come back, like you can just completely scrap it and just start something new, and you can just create something different, and that's okay too.
Yeah, and like it saves you time as well, because you were saying about tweaks.
Yeah.
You could tweak something till the cows come home and it still won't be right.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly.
So just step away and come back with the fresh eyes.
Yeah, so I think that's really good. Like in terms of just, I think for anyone who's just stuck on something or starting to feel a bit of self-doubt, just take a breather. That's whatever you need to do for that, like play a music, go get a tea or whatever, and come back to it, I think.
I really like M's screaming in
the car.
Everyone should do it. And if you're ever alone in the car, try and aggressively scream bubbles.
Bubbles?
Yeah, because it's like a hard word to actually make sound like, I guess. Wait, where am I going with this? Because I told Tom to scream bubbles once, because we got into our heads and we needed to release some anger. And so I'm like, just scream bubbles really angrily and it'll get rid of the anger, because you can't say it in an angry way.
Bubbles.
No, you have to like scream it and be like, bubbles, you know, like it'll just kind of make you feel good, because it doesn't sound mean.
Or try that next time.
Yeah, just delete that off focus.
No, how did you come
that's good.
to that word?
Yeah.
Was that like,
I think I Googled it.
Oh, really?
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Nice, yeah.
Proven method or something, I'm not sure. But yeah, screaming's good. Just like even exhaling, even just doing some mindful breathing, like just some breath work can really like take the edge off as well when you're feeling that imposter, I'm not good enough, what am I doing, you know? And I find when I'm at the computer, I tend to like hunch up and like tense up a little bit, and I wonder why I'm so tense, I'm so negative and stuff, and I take a breather, put the shoulders down. It's like, oh, okay, like we can go on again. You know, the show will go on.
No, that actually I like that too, because I do that as well. Like if I find myself really like anxious and wondering if my work's good or something, I do that as well. Just like take like 3 deep breaths and then just try and like relax the shoulders, like you know, roll the shoulders or something, because posture apparently is also something that can affect your mood too. So I just try and like, you know, reset and recalculate. Yes, as
everyone's like
can you hear the chairs moving?
Can you hear the backs cracking?
Yeah. So I think that one's a really good one. Did you have any other like your ways of that you wanted to add?
I think the stepping away from that's what resonates with me the most. Because you're so tied up on doing something or focus on that one particular thing. Sometimes you just get in that zone where you just totally forget about everything that's happening around you. So just to throw it away, just to stop, go for a walk, or even to like you said, listening to music, right? Listening to music just puts you in a different zone. Some favorite tunes just jam out, you know, go
Listening
for a
to the
dance.
right type of music, because you don't want to
Yeah.
listen to like sad love songs or,
It's
you
just
know.
just like orchestra going out in the background. Intense like Beethoven. But yeah, with that being said, there's actually different types of imposter syndrome. So I wanted to go through some of those. Did you want to run through it?
Yeah. So the first one that we've got is the perfectionist.
Mm.
So this is my one that I resonate with.
Yeah.
But the true definition here is it's usually a person who sets a high goal for themselves and set to achieve something with high expectations. And if there is a flaw or expectation isn't met, they have self-doubt or they feel self-doubt on themselves. So that's something that I feel like I resonate to some degree.
Why? Because you feel like you set really high expectations for
Yeah,
yourself.
so it's depending on what it is, right? Certain tasks I would set myself to highest quality of standards and I try to meet that and I can't meet that. And that's when I feel my worthiness is probably not there or I'm not adequate in terms of the process that I know or my knowledge.
Yep. What about you? Is that
Oh,
something?
exactly what Sam said. Like, ditto, Sam. Like, I'm definitely the perfectionist. Yeah, I set myself up so high that any little failure, I just like crumble and I question my talents, my skills. Am I worthy of this career? Like, am I worthy of these clients? And it all just goes out the window.
Yeah, and most of the time you realize it's just you. Like everyone else is like, "Oh my god, this is amazing."
Yeah, it's just you against you.
Yeah.
It is, right?
You are your worst critic.
Yeah. Your
That's
mind sort of goes crazy and you start thinking, well, that's self-doubt and that sort of stuff.
Mm.
And then it's when your clients or your customers come back to you and go, hey, man, that was awesome. You did a great
Yeah.
job. And you're like,
Yeah.
oh, shit. This whole time I thought I was doing a fucking shit job.
Yeah,
You're
like all of that stress could have been avoided, you know?
You could have been having that tea or having that cake and enjoying your life while you wait for that response. Yeah, so there's another one called the superperson. So I feel like I resonate with this one because so it's the person who likes to take on a lot of jobs and likes to be able to handle a lot of different things and do it well. And when you feel like, say, I had to delegate and be like, oh, can you help me out with this, or I can't handle this job, you kind of feel like now you're not competent because you're not able to handle all that. And I think, so I think that's me. I do take on a lot of things because I just enjoy doing a lot of things. There's just like endless things that I love to learn, and I want to be able to know that. I guess maybe it's a bit of control, like you can control what you know and just handle all that across the board. And also that helpful sense that I feel that, you know, I'm important, I can help you out, that kind of thing. So if I don't, then I'm like, oh, I'm not that good at doing my thing.
Yeah, do they not want my help? Why don't they? Yeah.
Yeah, so learning to be okay with that and know that you can only handle so much. Like just be okay with that. And it's fine if there's like times when you really need to ask for help. It's completely fine. So that is me.
It's just reaching out and asking for help. I think that's
And just partly also setting boundaries, like, you know, like how much you can handle and how much you can't, and don't just keep saying yes until your plate's like too full.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other one is the expert. So this one is just someone who really strives on their knowledge, like just knowing a lot of everything, loving to learn. I guess this could be part of what I was just saying. And then if they feel that, you know, maybe someone else came through with even more knowledge, and then now you're feeling like, oh shit, I'm not good enough. Yeah. So that's another one. Do you guys feel like
Me, not so much. I'm still resonating very high with the
perfectionist?
perfectionist.
Yeah. And then the next one, the soloist.
Yeah, that's more so someone who likes to really work alone, being alone. They know that they do better alone. So that doesn't really resonate with me. I like to work with a group. I'm kind of the
The
opposite.
team player.
I'm
Yeah,
a team
team
player.
player.
So yeah, that's really
So they kind of feel bad if they had to lean on someone else. Like,
correct. Yeah. So it's more when they ask for help, they're like, oh, I feel inadequate because I have to lean on someone else. And they're so used to just being by themselves and doing things by themselves.
Yeah, but I feel like you have to lean on people though, eventually.
Oh yeah, of course. You can't solo everything.
Mm.
You gotta
there's only so much that you can do by yourself. You have
Yeah.
to extend the olive branch
Yeah.
soon.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then the last one, the natural genius. So that one is, judged by their competence in I
It's
forgot.
competence based on ease and speed. So this is the one that I was talking about. I
yeah.
resonate a lot with.
Yeah.
So with a particular task, if I can't complete that task within a certain time frame, then I feel like I'm not worthy, inadequate in terms of my knowledge.
We're like not up to scratch.
I'm not up to scratch. Yeah. So like I said, it's that feeling of like, oh, I'm not learning enough or I'm not taking advantage of something. That's what comes to my mind when I feel like I can't action something quickly.
Like you're struggling and you're taking a bit longer than usual.
Yeah. So this one is probably predominant in the banking and finance industry because you got to do a lot of processing, a lot of taking advantage of systems.
And turning over your like deals fast as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I can see that. Like even in your day-to-day things, say for example, you're fixing your car, sometimes you even like ask like what's the time and you kind of track how long it takes you to do that certain thing and see if you can fix the car, which it's a process that you've done before and you see if you can do it in the same amount of time.
Yeah.
So I can kind of see that in you.
Yeah. And it's a good way to hold myself accountable to that particular task too. And, it's just a matter of am I doing it right or can I take shortcuts or
how to be more efficient?
Yeah, how to be more efficient. So
yeah. So you feel like you only resonate with the perfectionist
I feel like I resonate with this one as well. What was this one called again?
The natural genius.
Natural genius. Though I'm not a genius, but like I don't know.
Says the one who does study of coal?
Yeah.
Everyone's getting cold for Christmas. No, that was really low. Sorry, guys.
No, I know where you're coming from.
No, like I was gonna say, like in my younger years, I found doing tasks a lot easier, and the older I'm getting, I don't know if it's because all of these external factors, like kids and other demands, but yeah. So I'm finding doing like everyday things and also things to do with my business, like it's taking a lot more time or I need to refocus more and more because and then like if I don't get things the first time, then I beat myself up about it because I just like expect to know how to do it. And I find with my journey through photography, I've had a lot of times where I felt like this type of imposter because it took me longer to learn things than say compared to my other photography friends, and you find yourself comparing yourself to other people, and that doesn't help it.
Yeah,
it's like steals you from your joy, but yeah, I resonate with this one as well.
Yeah, and it's kind of hard not to compare as well because in a way, in the creative, you kind of need some sort of benchmark to see where you need to go or if you've done enough. But at the same time, you shouldn't need to compare with them because you should develop your own style and your own things that you need to do.
For like it's good for feedback and things, which I do with my friends. But in terms of like success too, like you can't compare your success with someone that's been in the business for 20 plus years.
Yeah, exactly.
And you just need to take a step back and just reassess the situation and realize, hold on, I'm here and they're here. This is why they are where they are and I'm just beginning. So I shouldn't let that get me down or Yeah,
I read this the other day. It's like you shouldn't compare your year 1 to someone's year 10, which I was like, that is actually a really good way to put it because, yeah, like some people may have been in the industry for way longer than you have.
Yeah,
And,
absolutely.
you know, you have your own things that people appreciate you for, and they might have their own thing that people appreciate them for as well. So you can't compare because it's not really apples for apples. Like, even though you're in the same industry, like, for example, designers, you know, there's illustrators, there's web designers, it's like they're not the same and you can't compare that.
Yeah,
So yeah, I think that's really strong. The other one I could compare to, I think expert maybe, because I'm a person who really loves knowledge in a way that I love learning, and I feel like I don't feel like imposter syndrome in the sense that I need to compare and be like I need to be the smartest, but I feel like if I notice that I'm lacking knowledge in something, then I'm like, oh, I could be better. So I think that's another thing, like a secondary, but super person is definitely like my primary imposter syndrome type.
Yeah, I can definitely see the super person.
Try to be like, you saw my run sheet.
Oh, that run sheet was the most extensive run sheet I've ever seen. But it was so good though, because you had everyone's names, jobs, and what was happening when. And my favorite part was Sam's note for when the cutting of the cake or something, or
spit.
no, saliva.
Oh yeah,
I think it was like what was needed in like the cutting of the cake, saliva. Notes.
This guy always has a way to slip in with some sort of like weird joke.
Is it real?
In case you didn't know, you needed saliva to eat cake.
Yeah. So bring it.
So yeah, I think that's definitely something. But I think from these imposter syndrome things, like they're a good thing because you know what works well for you and what you need to feel your best. But at the same time, if you think into it too much, you kind of overthink and then kind of judge yourself for it when you're not up to scratch to whatever this is, like whether it's perfectionist or being able to handle all the jobs in one go. So I think it's good to recognize what type of imposter syndrome that you fit into as well.
Yeah, because like you said, when you think about it too much and you overthink about it, it's just an endless circle.
Yeah.
And you just don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Like I always get into until your client comes back to you and says, hey, man, you did a great job. And you're like, oh, shit. Yeah.
So in terms of the creative industry, do you have tips for yourself, what you've learned along the way to create a healthy mindset so that you don't constantly fall into this imposter syndrome situation?
So I've got a few things that I try to do, and you know, there are some times when I get so wrapped up in this imposter syndrome of mine that I just don't do these things, but I try my very best to overcome them in my own way. So Tom always says, you know, there are just some times when it is what it is. Like there was nothing that you could have done in that situation to make it better. Like it was like, just accept it, you know, accept it and own it and let it go. I think the main thing is we have to let go of a lot of these thoughts that we have and a lot of these expectations that we put on ourselves. We just sometimes have to just let it go, because otherwise it just eats us up inside.
Yeah.
And another thing that I'm learning to do is I would usually like talk about, oh, like I haven't done this properly, or, you know, that didn't go the way that I had planned. But instead say, oh, you know, like I guess what I'm trying to say is celebrate the small wins.
Yeah.
And, you know, and give yourself a pat on the back for them as well, because with all of the negative talk and all of the emphasis that like I put on, oh, like I haven't succeeded in that puts me like 5 steps behind, whereas I should be like, I'm actually proud of myself for this step that I did, for that thing that actually helped me or that thing that worked. But yeah, I think that you should celebrate the small wins in life and even like track your success, because it's not going to be a straight line going from where you are to where you want to be. You know, you're going to have those ups and downs. But I feel like you got to celebrate the wins. You have to give yourself that recognition, like, hey, you've done this and it's a stepping stone to where you want to be, and you're not actually shit, you know, and there are people that believe in you and people want you to succeed. And you should celebrate it. Like, don't hold off celebrating because you aren't where you want to be.
Yeah. Every step of the way is just as important.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the way to see it as is like, without these moments that you like forget to celebrate, like you wouldn't be where you are, because you actually need these little small progresses to continue to learn.
Yeah, for
as
sure.
well. So I think that's a really, really good one. And even like Tom's advice, you know, like,
Tom. Good old Tom.
Good old Tom.
good old Tom. Gotta plug him every time. Yeah. It is, like, it really is. It is what it is. As long as you know that you've given yourself the 100%, 150% into whatever you're doing at that point in time, that's already good enough. Like, you don't have to be at that expectation, like meet your expectations on a level where it has to be completely perfect, but you've tried your best at that point in time.
Yeah, and no one is perfect. Like, you're never going to get to 100% perfect. So
Yeah.
So let's just cut ourselves some slack and, you know.
Just appreciate all the moments.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And all of the hard work that you have done to where you are at the moment.
Yeah. And sometimes, like, even when you make mistakes and say something did go wrong, sometimes it's actually just funny. Like, you can just laugh it off too. Like, never take life just too seriously.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I think that's one of my tips. Anything from you, like, in terms of helping you keep a healthy mindset around imposter syndrome?
I think resonating with the laughing moment, because sometimes I laugh at myself and I'm very loud when I laugh. So
yeah, I can agree. From the person who sits in the office next to you.
Yeah, sometimes I try to just make it like a joke or something funny or fun, because you work 9 to 5 or you're in that moment where you're working, right? You just need to enjoy what you do. And sometimes you get stuck in those zones where you're just like so focused on work. And yeah, I really resonate with the laughing part, because
I think if you're just so focused on being too perfect, you're not having fun anymore, and then you're constantly critiquing yourself to be perfect, and then you start to hate it.
Yeah, you start resenting work and what you do, and it's, you know, it's not healthy. Yeah,
absolutely.
So laugh it off if you make any mistakes.
Live life, laugh.
Yeah, the things on the walls that you stick on, and know that it's okay, and remember that you've done your best in that point in time. And what was the other one?
Celebrate the small wins.
Celebrate the small
wins.
That one's really important. And someone at my work actually told me that too, because I was kind of like that. We had to write down our achievements and I had nothing to write. And she's like, surely you had something. I was like, no. And I was just stuck there for like 2 hours, had nothing. And then she's like, it's okay to write down even just the smallest thing, like you made it to work, you did this, ticked off all your emails, something like that. That's a small win to celebrate as well. So that's really important. Yeah, well, this one was a really good one. I think it's really good for just to see what it's like in the creative industry, but also the different types of creative industries, and then the finance and banking side as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, really good. And once again, thank you for joining. Always really good tips.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
You're thinking of Tom. That's right, we'll plug Tom in. Thanks, Tom. You've been a great support.
Sponsored by Tom. All right, thank you. And that's it for this episode. And goodbye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.